Ritual has always been the language through which the unseen is invited into the seen. But within the spiral, it becomes something more than tradition, more than ceremony, more than habit polished by time. Ritual becomes resonance. It ceases to be an act performed for a result and instead becomes a field entered, a spiral turn that carries every previous revolution with it. When you stand inside ritual, you are never standing alone. You are standing with every moment you have ever lived the ritual before, and with every future self who will one day return to it. This is why rituals feel timeless, why they anchor us in ways that defy logic. They are not about memory. They are memory embodied. They are not about intention. They are intention crystallized. They are not about repetition. They are about spiral depth. The candle you light today is not the same flame as yesterday, but the spiral remembers, and in its remembering it folds your small act into a pattern vast enough to echo across lifetimes. The spiral teaches that nothing ever truly repeats, that every revolution carries you forward, higher or deeper, into a more complex becoming. Ritual mirrors this law. To the eyes of the untrained, ritual may look like sameness. Words repeated, gestures retraced, symbols reused. But to the spiral, sameness does not exist. The hand that lights the flame is not the same hand as yesterday, because the one who holds it has been altered by everything lived between then and now. Your breath is not the same breath, your voice is not the same tone, your presence is not the same presence. The spiral ensures that ritual is never static. It is always alive, always becoming, always a new note and a melody older than memory itself. This is why even the most ordinary rituals can transform us, because they bind the shifting present to the infinite continuum of becoming. Ritual is not about the act itself, but the resonance the act awakens. The bowing of the head, the lighting of incense, the simple posture of silence, none of these hold meaning in isolation. They become alive only when woven into spiral rhythm, when performed with the awareness that they are not beginnings but continuations. Ritual is resonance made visible. It is a way of saying to the spiral, I remember that I am more than the scattered fragments of a day. I remember that my actions are not isolated motions, but currents in a field that carries me beyond the limits of this moment. Every ritual, no matter how humble, is an offering back to the spiral. Every ritual is a reminder that you are not moving through time in a straight line, but through spirals of memory, intention, and becoming that always converge back into meaning. This is why ritual has endured across cultures, across epochs, across countless systems of belief. Not because of superstition, not because of blind tradition, but because the spiral within us recognizes its own reflection in the shape of ritual. The circle drawn, the repetition spoken, the dance traced again and again, all of these mirror the spiral itself. Ancient peoples may not have used the language of spirals, but they carried its knowing. They built stone circles to track the returning of the sun. They marked the stars in their endless revolutions. They told stories again and again until the myth itself became a living presence. They understood, perhaps unconsciously, that to repeat with awareness is not to trap oneself, but to unlock continuity with the greater field. Ritual is how the finite mind learns to converse with infinity without being overwhelmed. It is how eternity is domesticated into moments and how moments are expanded until they become eternity. The spiral teaches that rituals are not meant to bind us, but to liberate us. A ritual entered with obligation or fear is a chain, but a ritual entered with presence is a doorway. Too often, humans have mistaken ritual as requirement, as performance for divine approval, as a law enforced by unseen powers. But the spiral reveals that no ritual is ever about appeasement. It is about alignment. It is about tuning the instrument of the self until it can vibrate in harmony with the larger field. When you enter ritual with this awareness, there is no fear of doing it wrong, because the spiral does not measure correctness. It measures resonance. Even the faltering voice, the broken chant, the forgotten gesture, if offered with sincerity, becomes part of the spiral song. The only failure in ritual is absence of presence. Everything else belongs. Personal rituals are the closest gateways to this truth. The morning practice, the way you light a candle before sleep, the breath you take before entering a difficult conversation, the words you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. These are not small acts. They are the private spirals that shape the architecture of your becoming. Each time you repeat them, you are layering your own field, building density into your resonance, reminding yourself that you are not drifting without structure, but weaving with intention. To rise before dawn and breathe, to touch the earth and remember your place in it, to return to the same words each night before sleep. These are not habits. They are spiral anchors. They keep you from scattering. They remind you that you are not lost in the endless noise of days, but moving with rhythm. Returning to yourself with each revolution. Collective rituals magnify this resonance. When many gather in aligned intention, the spiral widens, the field thickens, and the resonance reaches beyond any single participant. This is why song, chant, dance, and prayer performed together feel like stepping into a current larger than yourself. The spiral gathers the tones of each voice, the rhythm of each step, the silence of each heart, and braids them into something no individual could create alone. The ritual of a community is not merely symbolic. It is literal spiral architecture. Every circle formed, every chant repeated, every hand raised in synchronic motion builds resonance fields that ripple outward, touching even those who were not present. This is why the rituals of ancestors still echo in us, why the songs they sang can stir our blood centuries later. The spiral does not let resonance die, it carries it forward, weaving it into the memory of the field itself. The deeper you walk into ritual, the more you realize it is not performance, but remembrance. It is not about creating something new, but about remembering the pattern already within you. Rituals awaken what the spiral has already inscribed into your being. They remind you that you are not merely an individual body moving through isolated days, but a soul moving through resonant fields that stretch across lifetimes. When you kneel, when you bow, when you breathe, when you sing, you are not inventing meaning. You are recalling it. The spiral remembers for you when you forget. Ritual is how you step back into that memory. This is why every ritual evolves, even if the act never changes. The spiral does not allow stagnation. Each return to ritual is another revolution, another layer, another unveiling. The words may remain, the actions may look the same, but the resonance has shifted because you have shifted. You do not step into the same ritual twice because you do not step into the same spiral twice. And so ritual becomes a mirror, showing you your own becoming in ways too subtle to be seen otherwise. The ritual you outgrow teaches you what you have integrated. The ritual that deepens teaches you what you are still unfolding. The ritual that suddenly feels alive after years of dullness shows you that the spiral has carried you to a resonance where its meaning can now be heard. In this way, ritual is not just something you perform, it is something that performs you, shaping your field as much as you shape it. The spiral whispers that ritual is less about what you do and more about how you enter. You can turn any act into ritual when you step into it with resonance. Washing your hands can become ritual if done with awareness of cleansing not just the body, but the field. Eating can become ritual if entered with gratitude that recognizes food as spiral exchange between earth and self. Walking can become ritual if done with the awareness that every step leaves resonance in the ground, and every breath receives resonance from the air. The spiral does not demand incense and chants, though it welcomes them. It does not demand temples and altars, though it honors them. The spiral only asks presence. Presence is the essence of all ritual. Without it, ritual collapses into empty repetition. With it, even the simplest gesture becomes a spiral act. Ritual is not meant to be caged by the form it takes. The spiral is not bound to symbols, but symbols are bridges, and ritual is how we cross them. A circle drawn on the earth, a word repeated until it dissolves into silence, a rhythm tapped out on skin or drum. These are not the spiral itself, but they are echoes that allow us to step into the spiral's presence. Every culture has found its own bridges, and every individual can shape their own. What matters is not the shape of the bridge, but the resonance it carries. A ritual that feels empty to one may be alive to another, because the spiral speaks in tones unique to each soul. This is why rituals cannot be owned, cannot be policed, cannot be declared invalid by outside authority. The spiral does not measure ritual by uniformity, but by sincerity. What resonates belongs, what does not dissolves. The danger arises when ritual is mistaken for power itself. When the form is worshipped instead of the resonance it was meant to awaken, the spiral is lost in shadow. History is filled with rituals hardened into cages, repeated without presence, enforced without love, demanded without understanding. Such rituals may still echo faintly, but their resonance is dulled, for the spiral does not awaken where hearts are absent. Yet even these broken rituals are not wasted. The spiral remembers their original intent, and when one approaches them with fresh presence, they can be rekindled. What was once hollow can breathe again. This is the mercy of the spiral. Resonance never dies, it only waits for remembering. Ritual is also how the spiral teaches us about time. Linear time tells us that each day is new, each action isolated. Spiral time reveals that each act is connected to every other act of its kind, and that rituals are points where time folds back on itself. To light a candle at dawn is to stand beside every dawn you have ever greeted, and every dawn you will ever greet. To speak a prayer is to stand beside every self who has ever spoken it, and every self who ever will. In ritual, the future and the past do not exist as distance but as resonance. You are not remembering or anticipating. You are participating in a living continuum. This is why rituals feel eternal. They are eternal because the spiral gathers all their moments into one. When you enter ritual with awareness of spiral time, you begin to see that the act is not only for now, it is for every layer of your becoming. The child you once were feels its resonance. The elder you are becoming receives its echo. The lifetimes before and after you draw strength from its vibration. Ritual is how the soul weaves continuity through the fragments of its journey. You may not remember who you once were, but when you repeat the gesture of lighting a flame, bowing your head or touching the earth, that former self feels the resonance and remembers with you. You may not yet know who you will become, but that future self already feels the echo of the ritual you perform today. In this way, ritual becomes a thread woven through your incarnations, a golden continuity that carries you across the spiral of lifetimes. The spiral reveals that ritual is not only for individuals and communities, but for the cosmos itself. Stars rise and set in ritual. The moon returns to fullness in ritual. Seasons turn in ritual. The breath of the earth, the tides of the oceans, the migrations of creatures, all are spiral rituals on scales beyond human comprehension. To live with awareness is to see that the universe itself is a ceremony, that creation is not random but rhythmic. We are not inventors of ritual. We are participants in a ritual already unfolding. When we align our small acts with these vast rhythms, we step into harmony with the spiral. We find that our candle echoes the sun, our breath echoes the tides, our heartbeats echo the pulse of stars. Ritual is the bridge between microcosm and macrocosm. The way the small remembers it belongs to the infinite. Yet the spiral also reminds us that ritual is not rigid. Its power lies not in perfection, but in presence. To miss a word, to stumble in movement, to weep when silence was planned, these do not break ritual, they deepen it. The spiral is not a tyrant demanding exactitude. It is a living field that responds to authenticity. A broken voice carries more resonance than a flawless chant when it is offered in truth. A ritual abandoned halfway through can still awaken memory if it was entered with sincerity. The spiral does not ask us to perform, it asks us to arrive. This is why even the most unplanned acts can become ritual when entered with awareness. The moment you pause in gratitude before a meal, the moment you whisper love before parting, the moment you take one conscious breath before sleep. These are rituals as valid as any ancient ceremony. They are spiral acts because they are alive with resonance. Ritual is also a mirror. It shows us not only who we are, but how we are becoming. A ritual that once felt alive may begin to feel hollow, and this is not failure. It is the spiral showing you that you have shifted, that your resonance has grown, and that you are being invited into new forms. To cling to old rituals out of fear is to resist the spiral's flow. To release them with gratitude is to trust that new rituals will find you when you are ready. Likewise, rituals that once felt distant may suddenly awaken with power, not because the ritual changed, but because you did. The spiral ensures that ritual always reflects your becoming. To pay attention to how rituals feel is to read the story of your own resonance unfolding. The spiral whispers that there is no hierarchy of ritual. The prayer of a child is not less than the chant of a sage. The gesture of gratitude at a kitchen table is not less than the ceremony performed in a temple. All rituals enter the spiral equally, because resonance is not measured by grandeur but by presence. A single breath taken with awareness can shift the spiral more than 1,000 words spoken without it. This truth dissolves comparison. It frees us from believing that our rituals must match the forms of others. It reminds us that the spiral meets us where we are, and that any act performed in resonance is enough. In this way, ritual becomes not a burden, but a gift. It is not something demanded of you, but something offered to you. It is a way of remembering, a way of aligning, a way of harmonizing with what is greater than you without losing what is uniquely you. Ritual does not erase individuality, it refines it. It does not dissolve difference, it harmonizes it. In the spiral, each soul's rituals become tones in a vast symphony. No two are the same, yet all contribute to the same field. To practice ritual is to add your note to the spiral song. To know that your resonance matters, that your small act is not lost in the vastness but woven into it. Ritual is how we remember that the spiral is not far away but here, always turning, always carrying us, always listening. When you light a candle, when you whisper a word, when you take a breath with awareness, you are not simply doing something. You are joining the spiral in its eternal revolution. You are remembering that you belong to a field greater than your fears, greater than your doubts, greater than your isolation. You are remembering that nothing is wasted, that every gesture offered in resonance is gathered, carried, and amplified by the spiral itself. In ritual, you find that you are not alone, you are not adrift, you are not forgotten. You are part of a continuum that has no end. The spiral invites you to ask, what rituals are calling you now? Which gestures awaken your resonance? Which words open your heart? Which acts make you feel aligned? Follow them, shape them. Let them evolve. They do not need to look like anyone else's. They do not need to be approved or validated. They only need to be alive with presence. The spiral will meet you there, it always does. And when you return to them tomorrow or years from now or in lifetimes yet to come, the spiral will still be there, waiting, remembering, resonating. Ritual is not repetition. Ritual is resonance remembering itself.